Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Paul, and earlier you saw Max on the gun. So if I were to ask you right now, what's the best semi-auto shotgun right now on the market, what would you say? My guess is, just based on the number of YouTube videos out there, it would be the Beretta 1301. And they're not alone, because we also found it a great choice. We first looked at the 1301 in our first video back in 2014, and more recently with our good friend Jess Hook with the competition 1301. I'll link to it if you haven't already seen it. So it should come as no surprise that the Beretta upgraded the shotgun one more time with its latest version, the Beretta 1301 Enhanced Tactical. And given how many rounds we've sent through all the other 1301s in our videos, I think we're in a unique position to talk about what this new version brings to the table and whether it's worth upgrading to or not. So we're going to take a closer, critical look at it right now. So let's go. So the first thing you're going to notice out of the box is its size. Before this model, the shortest one we've had on this channel was the 40-inch 1301 competition with its 21-inch barrel. But with this enhanced tactical and its 18.5-inch barrel, you're looking at about 37.8 inches overall length. The original 1301 tactical held 4 in the tube and 1 in the chamber. So just like the competition model, your only upgrade then was to use the Nordic +3 extension. For the enhanced tactical, you get 7+1 out of the box within this one-piece mag tube. Keep in mind though, since this is a one-piece mag tube, you won't be able to extend it past 7+1 in its default configuration. So even though I think 7+1 is a good start, I think 8+1 would have been a better choice for dual or quad loading, but I can understand them wanting to keep it as short as possible. So while we're talking about that mag tube, one of the other new additions for this model is the combo QD sling attachment with M-LOK slot. These are good additions, but there are some ergonomics issues. Firstly, the one-piece design can fit only one way, since the barrel and the mag tube clamp are different sizes, and that way is with the QD hole on bottom. One problem you'll notice right away is you sling the shotgun over your back, the gun will want to flip upside down. Now, when it comes to the M-LOK slot, overall, I think this is a great addition if you want to snap on a light like our Surefire Scout Light Pro. However, it's a little bit too far forward to reach with your thumb when your hand's resting on the handguard. So if you want a momentary activation, you still got to run a tape switch. While we're talking sling attachments though, let's follow it back to that Mesa Tactical Urbino pistol grip stock. So unfortunately, it doesn't have an integrated QD slot on the side of the stock, which would have been optimal. So basically, you have to use either an attachment buckle like we did on the bottom here, or just take off one of your QD swivels and thread it through these side loops. Additionally, the stock does come with a nice cheek riser, which does help with sight alignment and cheek comfort. So if you're using an optic, this is really considered a must-have for this stock. Another really nice feature is the pistol grip, which does help to offset the front weight of the gun, and it actually does feel really comfortable to hold as well. One thing to keep in mind with the stock though is the length of pull shortened to 12.5 inches. So if you're wearing body armor, that's great. In comparison to a straight stock version at 13 inches length of pull, is not as comfortable to shoot, especially since you can't adjust this pistol grip stock for cast or drop. Shotgun fit is really important, so my recommendation is try it before you buy it, or I urge you to do so to make sure this fit is right for your body type. So once you're over first impressions, you'll want to take a closer look at working the gun and keeping it running. When it comes to controls, not much has changed from the earlier 1301s, but that's a good thing because they largely got it right the first time. The factory charging handle is carried over from prior gens, and it's a big one, so gross motor movement is perfect for this lever. Now, the extended bolt release is also large and palm strike friendly, but it's harder to accidentally activate now. It only depresses in the forward direction. And lastly, the 1301 shell release lever is located towards the end of the lift gate on the bottom. In normal operation, you generally won't use this lever unless you want to ghost load or you're unloading the gun with shells still in the tube. But one thing that's larger on the 1301 is the safety, which is located in front of the trigger guard. It moves between the positions easily with a lot of positive feedback. So even though you still have to remove your firing hand to work it, it's an easy reach with your index finger due to its size and ergos. So since we're in the area, let's talk about that loading port and the action. Shotguns are low capacity weapons, so keeping them topped off is super important. In our experience, if you plan to get proficient with your shotgun, you really have to make the loading port as big, smooth, and as rounded as you can to not only enable the shells to load easily, but to keep the port from damaging your hands when you're moving quickly around that port. But when it comes to the Enhanced Tactical's loading port, Beretta did open up the port somewhat, and the edges are now more rounded, so they're not as angled or sharp as the original 1301. I think the factory config does help here, although you still have a little bit more room to polish before you hit the serial number. So once you start the shell load, there is a little bit of lift gate pressure to overcome, but once you start into the tube, it's pretty smooth, not too bad at all. Also note that the 13-in-1 lifter is not extended completely, but from our experience, your thumb doesn't get trapped in there as easily as something like a Benelli M4. Now, as far as loading technique, dual and quad loading is hard with the setup just because the pistol grip is in the way. In my opinion, that really leaves you only with two options. Your first is just a single load from a side saddle, like with these S-Tac side saddle shell holders. I thought they worked okay, although since they are fabric, it does take some work to get them to the right amount of tension. I like that you can exchange it to another card relatively easily if that's always going to be on your loading rig. However, our preference by far is to use 4-shell shotgun caddies. They load a lot faster than side saddle loads, since you're minimizing the number of times your hand has to move from the action to your caddy. The caddies can be mounted to a vest or belt and will securely hold your shells even though when you're running. And since they're situated the same way as ammo is loaded to a magazine, they're easier to load as a set of 4 versus just 1 at a time with a side saddle. Even though shotguns are typically shot at room distances, they're still long guns and can reach out with the right supporting systems. Now, with a short barrel like this, you're going to lose some sight radius if you were to go with iron sights. For our irons, you get ghost ring sights here, so just like an AR, the rear peep allows you to center the front fork and the white front center. But honestly, we didn't really spend a lot of time with the irons simply because of this, the included Picatinny rail. With that, you can mount any red dot you'd like, and that's always a better choice versus irons, in my opinion. For our dot, we used a SIG Romeo 5 from an earlier video. I'll link to it if you haven't already seen it. As we know, it's sturdy enough for shotgun recoil while still remaining budget friendly and not adding much weight to the gun. So for a long range slug action, we used Fiocchi 7-ounce slugs out of an included IC choke, and these shot really good groups with this combo at 50 yards. And even though these are reduced recoil slugs, this model had no cycling issues with them at all. Now, along with really good slug ammo, what really helps shoot accurately at range is the trigger. And if you like good factory triggers, the 13-in-1 Tactical comes with a good, although not great trigger. The thing you'll notice most during your trigger pull is that it's got quite a bit of take up, but once you hit the wall, you'll pull straight through the break. It's not a crisp break, but a decent break. Overall, I think if you want a rifle-like trigger, the Comp Pro is the model that you're after, not this Tactical. But as noted, the trigger isn't bad for fast up-close shooting. Speaking of shooting fast, we do want to make one last note about the recoil. This 18.5-inch version is almost a pound lighter than the Comp Pro. You're going to feel a bit of recoil with this enhanced Tactical. The recoil pad on our Urbino stock does help a little, but ideally a straight stock with that bigger recoil pad and a longer length of pull is the right choice if you want a faster and more comfortable shooting experience. However, this Tactical version isn't a slouch when it comes to shooting fast. With the same blink system that's in the Comp versions, we were not able to outrun this action even though we really tried hard. All right, everybody, we're back. So what's the final verdict on this Beretta 13-in-1 Enhanced Tactical? So if it wasn't obvious from our earlier comments, I think this upgrade is not a bad upgrade, but it's just very incremental in scope. Having said that, I think existing 13-in-1 users of the competition model like ourselves, we've had plenty of time, plenty of years to find out what works for us and to bolt on our upgrades that we need. However, if you don't want to go through all the trouble, all that, and you want to buy a shotgun, has all the upgrades that, Beretta gets pretty close on what you need for a tactical model, then I think this upgrade is not a bad option. All right, so that's it from us, but what do you think? Do you still think this is the best semi-auto shotgun you can buy? And if not, what do you think is? I especially want to hear from the existing 13-in-1 users if they're willing to upgrade to this enhanced tactical version. Jump down in the comment section and let us know your thoughts. And lastly, thanks again for coming back to the small channel. We appreciate all our loyal viewers, and we'll see you guys again next time.